Hello friends and welcome to a lecture on pollution case studies. In today's deliberation, our main focus shall be water pollution and its other related disasters. So to begin with, let us first understand what water pollution is. Water pollution is any undesirable change in the physical, chemical and biological characteristics of water that may render it unfit for its suitable use. Let us take some case studies related to water pollution. First, the Minamata disease episode, that is heavy metal pollution of water. Dear friends, let us know some history of Minamata. Minamata is a small factory town dominated by the Chiso Corporation and is located on the western coast of Kyushu, Japan's southernmost island. In Japanese, Chisu means nitrogen. The Chisu Corporation was once a fertilizer and chemical company and gradually advanced to a petrochemical and plastic maker company. From 1932 to 1968, Chiso Corporation, a company located in Kumamoto, Japan, dumped an estimated 27 tons of mercury compounds into Minamata Bay. Thousands of people whose normal diet included fish from the bay unexpectedly developed symptoms of methyl mercury poisoning. This illness became known as the Minamata disease. Dear friends, let us now talk about various sequential events that occurred with the onset of this disease. It started out quite simply with the strangeness of cats dancing in the street and sometimes collapsing and dying. These were the first signs of one of the most dramatic and emotionally moving cases of industrial pollution in history. The outcome was tragic. A whole town was both literally and figuratively poisoned. The case of Minamata, Japan and the mercury poisoning, originally called Minamata disease, that took place, appeared briefly in news headlines in the 1970s. Now, dear friends, let us discuss what this disease is. Minamata disease is an encephalopathy and peripheral neuropathy caused by daily intake of fish and shellfish highly contaminated by methyl mercury. Through gills and gastrointestinal tracts, fishery products such as fish, shrimp, crabs and shellfish take in methyl mercury discharged from chemical plants into rivers and seas. Flesh-eating fish that eat those contaminated fish also accumulate the toxic substance through the food web. Thus, accumulated methyl mercury in the seafood by the process of biological magnification intoxicates people who have eaten a lot of such seafood daily. Now, let us discuss the characteristics of Minamata disease. Minamata disease is due to a typical industrial pollution incident caused by the pollutant generated in industrial activities. The disease was officially recognized on 1st of May 1956. The characteristics of Minamata disease are summarized as follows. Number first, the causative substance was methyl mercury. Number second, methyl mercury released from factory into water accumulated in aquatic organisms via their gills or intestines directly or through their food chain. Humans had taken it by eating polluted fish. This process is called bioaccumulation. Number third, the wastewater containing methyl mercury changed from inorganic form in the production process was discharged from the factory into Minamata Bay and polluted sea and river. Number 4, fish and shellfish as well as the sea environment were polluted by the wastewater through the process of bioaccumulation. Now, dear friends, let's talk about various effects of this disease. In 1957, this unknown disease was named as Minamata disease. The first report on Minamata disease, a patient was filed in May 1965. By July 1965, a total of 26 patients were recognized, of which 5 had already died. The physiological effects, including successive loss of motor control, were devastating and resulted in sometimes partly paralyzed and contorted bodies. The pathological changes of methyl mercury poisoning in the nervous system are as follows: J disturbance, that is loss of balance. It is also known as ataxia. Number 2 is speech disturbance. We can also say is dysarthria. Number 3 is sight disturbance of peripheral areas in the visual fields, or we can say constriction of visual fields. And number 4 is stereoanesthesia, that is disturbance of sensation. Muscle weakness and muscle cramp, that is disturbance of movement. Hardness of hearing, disturbance of sense of pain, touch or temperature, or that is also known as disturbance of sensation. Now, dear friends, let us know the social and cultural consequences of this disease. Stigmatization and discrimination against patients, negative image of the city as it becomes the city of pollution, rioting and social unrest, social awareness of the disease. Dear friends, let us now take another water pollution related case, that is pesticide pollution in India. Let me begin with the history of this episode. The most terrifying effects of pesticide contamination of groundwater came to light when pesticide residues were found in bottled water. It was from July and December 2002, the Pollution Monitoring Laboratory of the New Delhi-based Center for Science and Environment analyzed 17 brands of bottled water, including both packaged drinking water and packaging natural mineral water, commonly sold in areas that fall within the national capital region of Delhi. The pesticide residues of organic chlorine and organic phosphorus pesticides, which are most commonly used in India, were found in all the samples. Among the organochlorines, gamma hexachlorocyclohexane, commonly known as linden, and DDT were prevalent, while among organophosphorus pesticides, marathon and chlorpyrifos were the most common. All these were present above the permissible limit specified by the European Economic Community, which is the norm used all over Europe. These raw water samples collected from the plants revealed the presence of pesticide residues. This clearly indicated that the source of pesticide residues in the polluted groundwater are used to manufacture the bottled water, despite the fact that all bottled water plants use a range of purification methods. Let us now talk about the main culprit behind this tragedy. Dear friends, the fault obviously lies in the treatment methods used. These plants use membrane technology, where the water is filtered using membranes with ultra small pores to remove fine suspended solids, all bacteria and protozoa, and even viruses. While nanofiltration can remove insecticides and herbicides, it is expensive and thus rarely used. The low concentrations of pesticide residues in bottled water do not cause acute or immediate effects. However, repeated exposure, even to extremely minute amounts, can result in chronic effects like cancer, liver and kidney damage, disorders of the nervous system, damage to the immune system, and birth defects. Dear friends, let us now learn the main reason of this episode. Number first is lack of specified standards. There were no standards for bottled water in India till September 29, 2000, when the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare issued a notification amending the Prevention of Food Adulteration Rules 1954. The Bureau of Indian Standards certification mark became mandatory for bottled water from March 29, 2001. Now, let us take the third case study related to water pollution, that is river pollution in India. Almost all the rivers in India are polluted. The causes of pollution may also be more or less similar. Let us take one case study of the river Damodar. The 563 km long Damodar river originates near Chandwa village in the Chota Nagpur hills in Bihar's Palamu district. It flows through one of the richest mineral belts in the world before draining into the Hooghly about 50 km south of Kolkata, and has become highly polluted due to the following reasons. Number first reason is mining. As underground mines cannot keep pace with the rising demand. 60% of the coal extracted from the area comes from open cast mines, which are responsible for serious land degradation. The disposal of rock and soil extracted along with the coal only adds to the problem. Number second is fly ash from thermal power plants. As most of these plants are located on the banks of the river, the fly ash eventually finds its way into the river. The bottom ash from the boilers is mixed with water to form slurry, which is then drained into ash ponds. Most of the ponds are full, and in several cases the drainage pipes are choked. The slurry is therefore directly discharged in the river. Now, let us discuss various effects of pollution on this water body and environment. The river and its tributaries are the largest source of drinking water for the huge population that lives in the Damodar Valley. On April 2, 1990, about 2 lakh liters of furnace oil spilled into the river from the Bokaro steel plant. For a week after the incident, 5 million people drank contaminated water in which the oil levels were 40 to 80 times higher than the permissible value of 0.03 mg per liter, thus causing various disorders among the consumers. Now, remedy of this pollution. The Damodar Action Plan, an end of the pipe pollution treatment scheme, seeks to tackle effluents. One viable option could be to switch to less polluting industries and cleaner technology. Now, let's take another case study of our topic, that is municipal solid waste management, a case study of Surat city. The rapid urbanization and rise in population in Surat led to the growth of slums, increase in garbage and overflowing drains. In 1994, Surat was struck by an outbreak of a virulent disease somewhat like the plague. It was a harsh reminder of what negligence in the area of solid waste management can lead to. Within a span of 18 months, the city made a complete reversal from a dirty, garbage-stricken city to become one of the cleanest cities in the country. Community participation played a key role in the rapid implementation of the decisions taken by the corporation. Subsequent to the disaster, the attitudes of the citizen changed and then diligently tried to improve its living conditions. Institutional change was the first things to happen. A commissioner was appointed for each zone with additional powers. The officials responsible for solid waste management were made accountable for their work, and field visits were made mandatory for them each day. The solid waste management department and other related departments were made to work and cooperate with one another. Grievance redressal codes were issued to people so that complaints could be registered. The complaint was attended to within 24 hours and the code returned to the citizen. Initially, the Gujarat government's Municipal Act did not have any provision to penalize littering. However, after the plague, the government realized that it was important to impose such a penalty in order to make people aware of their responsibility in maintaining their city's cleanliness. Thereafter, a fine of ₹50 was imposed for every offence of littering, and it was doubled for every subsequent offence. Dear students, let us now move toward the fifth and last case study of our topic, that is hazardous chemical waste disaster pollution. It is also known as the Love Canal tragedy. First, let me introduce you to the episode of Love Canal. The Love Canal came from the last name of William T. Love, who in the early 1890s envisioned a canal connecting the Niagara River to Lake Ontario. One of the most famous and important examples of groundwater pollution in the United States is the Love Canal tragedy in the Niagara Falls, New York. In 1978, residents of the Love Canal neighborhood in the upstate New York noticed high rates of cancer and an alarming number of birth defects. This was eventually traced to organic solvents and dioxin from an industrial landfill that the neighborhood has been built over and around, which had then infiltrated into the water supply and evaporated in basements to further contaminate the air. 800 families were reimbursed from their homes and moved after extensive legal battles and media coverage. Love Canal is a neighborhood in Niagara Falls named after a large ditch that was dug in 1890s for hydroelectric power. The ditch was abandoned before it actually generated any power and went mostly unused for decades, except for swimming by local residents. Hooker Chemical purchased the land in 1942 and lined it with clay. In 1953, Hooker Chemical sold the land to the Niagara Falls School Board and included a clause in the sales contract. That board describes the land use filled with chemical waste and absolved them from any future damage claims from the buried waste. The school board promptly built a public school on the site and sold the surrounding land for a housing project that built 200 or so homes along the canal banks and another 1,000 in the neighborhood. During construction, the canal's clay cap and walls were breached, damaging some of the metal barrels. Eventually, the chemical waste seeped into people's basements and the metal barrels worked their way to the surface. Trees and gardens began to die. Bicycle tires and the rubber soles of children's shoes disintegrated into noxious puddles. Local residents allegedly experienced major health problems, including high rate of miscarriages, birth defects, and chromosomal damage. Finally, in 1978, President Carter declared a state of emergency at Love Canal, making it the first human-caused environmental problem to be designed that way. The Love Canal incident became a symbol of improperly stored chemical waste. Cleanup of Love Canal which was funded by Superfund and completely finished in 2004, involving removing contaminated soil, installing drainage pipes to capture contaminated groundwater for treatment, and covering it with clay and plastic. The total cleanup cost was estimated to be $275 million. The only good thing about the Love Canal tragedy is that it helped to create Superfund, which analyzed thousands of hazardous waste sites in the United States and cleaned up hundreds of the worst ones. Nevertheless, over 1,000 major hazardous waste sites with a significant risk to human health or the environment are still in the process of being cleaned. So friends, today we talked about various water pollution related case studies, their main causes and main effects. That is all we have for you in today's lecture. Thank you for being with me.